大家好，我是黄元哲，我来念的是中日紧张关系概述。Japan and China on Thursday last week marked the 50th anniversary of the 1972 normalization of their ties. But there isn't much of a celebratory mood. Improved ties between Asia's two biggest economies are considered vital to the region's stability and prosperity, but they remain either over dispute East China Sea, island and China's growing military and economic assertiveness in the region. Here are the key issues in the often strained relation between these powerhouse neighbors. Territorial dispute, a huge source of contention, is an uninhabited group of Tokyo-controlled, Beijing-claimed East China Sea island called Senkaku in Japan and Diaoyu in China. Japan insists that the island, which once hosted a Japanese seafood factory, are part of its territorial both historically and by international law. China says they were stolen by Japan in 1895 and should have been returned at the end of World War II. The disputed islands are surrounded by rich fishing grounds and undersea oil deposits, and Japan accuses China of soundly making it territorial claims after the undersea resources were found in a 1969 United Nations report. The 1972 normalization communique did not deal with the issue, but the dispute intensified after Japan's government in 2012 nationalized the Senkaku Islands, leading to violent protests across China. Chinese Coast Guard and fishing boats are regularly found in the area, routinely intruding on Japanese water.
Hello， 我是白惠慈。好 ，Fear of Taiwan emergency. Japan, along with its security ally, the U.S., has openly criticized increased Chinese activities in the South China Sea. Tokyo has also pushed for peace and stability in the Taiwan Straits. China claims Taiwan a self-governing democracy and has threatened to annex it by force is necessary. With a U.S.-China trade war and naval tensions on the rise in the area, Japan is increasingly worried about Taiwan emergency. China's increased joint military drills with Russia near Japanese coasts have also irked Japan. Tokyo is shifting its military posture towards southwestern Japan, including Okinawa and remote islands just east of Taiwan. China staged major military drills in area surrounding Taiwan in August in an angry response to U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's Taipei visit, and fired 5 ballistic missiles into waters near Okinawa. Fear of conflict over Taiwan adds to Japan's urgent effort to reinforce its military capabilities and boost in budgets. Japan is currently revising its national security strategy, which is expected to call for the position of preemptive strict capabilities that opponents say would violate the country's Pacific concentration with Japan's westernmost island just east of Taiwan. It is increasingly difficult to see how a Taiwan military contingency would not affect, at a minimum, the waters and the airspace around Japanese territory, said Amanda Shaw, senior analyst for China at the Crisis Group. Wartime history. The two countries were at war, starting with clashes in the 1930s, until Japan's defeat in 1945. Japanese atrocities during the Sino-Japanese War include the rape of Nanking, the use of chemical and biological weapons, and grisly human medical experiments in Manchuria, where Japan's Imperial Army had a secret biological weapons unit. Japan also took nearly 40,000 Chinese laborers to Japanese mines and factories, where many died of took nearly 40,000 Chinese laborers to Japanese mines and factories, where many died of malnutrition and abuse. In the 1972 Communique, China waived the right to war compensation, which some experts say was in exchange for Japan's apology and recognition of China as the only legal government. Japan, however, has provided official development totaling 3.6 trillion yuan to China over the past 4 decades.
我是黄立凯。Yasukuni Sharan. China considers Tokyo's Yasukuni Sharan, which honors 2.5 million were dead, including convicted war criminals, as a symbol of Japan's wartime militaries. Beijing views visits by Japanese ministers and lawmakers to the Tokyo Sharan as indicative of a lack of remorse over Japan's wartime aggression. China, along with South Korea, which Japan colonized from 1910 to 1945, routinely protest against such visits. Economic security. As a top U.S. ally and a major trade partner with China, Japan is in a delicate situation and must balance its position between the two superpowers. China has been more assertive about pressing other governments to embrace Chinese-led initiatives, including a trade group called the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Japan, along with the U.S., is seeking ways to stand up to increasing Chinese economic influence in the region. Tokyo also wants to reinforce economic security with other democracies in areas such as supply chains and the protection of sensitive technologies, apparently as a counter to China. Yasuo Fukuda, a former Japanese prime minister who is an active proponent of better ties with China, says friction between Japan and China largely stems from U.S.-China trade issues. The question is whether global trade works better by excluding China, he said. The Sino-Japanese relationship affects the trade and economy of the U.S., China, and Japan because of Japan's previous bad behavior towards China, which makes China have a bad impression on Japan, and Japan's international status need to balance the two powers. But because China is a communist country, it leads to China's power, which makes Japan dislike and even resist their behavior.